the FBI report, right? The statistics, that's what you're going to see. We all now know, if you do any study about this, crime is all about proximity. You live by white people, you're gonna get robbed by
Correct.
white people. You live by Latino people, you're gonna get robbed by
Well,
Latino people.
there's white on
That's,
white crime, just like there's black on black crime. It's based who you
here's the
live
deal,
with.
right? Here's the deal. Imaging. How many of you remember the Beverly Hillbillies? So even when they wanted to depict themselves in a bad way, they still made them millionaires. Think about that. Even y'all complaining that we don't show rednecks and we don't show poor white trash. Okay, we're gonna show it to you, but they won the lottery. They won. You see what I mean?
We'll discuss race and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black Executive Perspective.
We are coming to you live from our new BEP studio for another thought-provoking episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast, a safe space where we discuss all matters regarding race, culture, and those uncomfortable topics people tend to avoid. I'm your host, TonyTidbit.
And I'm your co-host, Chris P. Reed. Before we get into this episode, we'd like to start off by remembering to check out our partners at Code M Magazine. Code M Magazine, where the mission is saving the black family by first saving the black man. Check them out at CodeMMagazines2Ms.com.
Definitely check them out. And today, check out who we have on BEP. Dr. Will Moreland, America's #1 leadership life trainer and CEO of Moreland Training and Associates. He joins us to dissect the current crossroads in diversity, equity, and inclusion. As political resistance grows and performative pleasures lose steam, one truth remains. Authentic DEI is not dead. It's evolving. Dr. Will will also share his journey from the streets of Compton to global leadership stages, offering powerful insights on how to lead with purpose, build inclusive excellence, and future-proof your organization with intentional culture.
Before we jump into this valuable conversation, let me give you a little background on our guest here, Dr. Will. Dr. Will Moreland, affectionately known as America's #1 leadership life trainer, has transformed his life from the streets of Compton, as Tony mentioned, to the global stages and corporate boardrooms around the world. The two-time combat military veteran turned award-winning speaker, the author of over 50 books with 35 bestsellers, right? And the founder of the Moreland Training and Associates. Dr. Will is the definition of resilience, purpose, and leadership. He grew up and overcame challenges and circumstances that we could only, dream about. And he decided at an early age to not let his environment define his destiny. After serving honorably in the United States Army, he went on a journey of personal development that would lead him to inspire millions. Today, he's recognized as a Titan 100 CEO, a Business Hall of Fame inductee, and one of the top 10 motivational speakers in the world, in all the world. Amazing, amazing talent. Throughout his progress, Dr. Will has equipped leaders, entrepreneurs, educators, and everyday individuals like you and I to live with intentionality, lead with integrity, and he has left a lasting legacy on us all. Dr. Will Moreland, welcome to a Black Executive Perspective podcast.
Man, I'm so excited to be here, man. I appreciate both of you for the work that you're doing around the world. Congratulations on your newest recognition, being one of the top podcasts out there. So, man, I've been waiting to get down with you brothers for a long time.
Hey, we definitely been looking forward to it as well. So let's do this. Let's do this to kind of ease us in. Tell us a little bit about where you're currently located. I know we know where you're from, but where you at?
Yeah, so for the last 15 years, my family has resided in Phoenix, Arizona. After living in Europe for about 15 years, we've been here now in Phoenix, Arizona for the last, we moved here in 2010, so 15 years now. So both places, 15 years.
And tell us a little bit about your family, my brother.
Yeah, so I don't have a high school sweetheart. I have an Army sweetheart. My wife and I, we met literally in the Army. But here's the interesting thing about that. We actually grew up about 20 minutes from each other in Southern California. Never saw each other, never came across each other. And we both joined the military, moved to get stationed in Germany, moved and meet each other about the first or second month that we were there. And now we're closing in on 30 years of marriage. From this marriage, we produced two beautiful children, a 22-year-old daughter, Kara, who is a Navy in the Navy as well right now, recently married, just blessed us with our about a year and a half ago, blessed us with our first grandbaby, and just announced this past February, this past Father's Day, she's getting ready to bless us with my second grandbaby. So super excited
Wow.
about that. And then we have a 15-year-old son named Champ, who's still here with us, getting ready to be a sophomore, going into the 10th grade.
Wow, buddy. That is fantastic. 30 years?
Almost 30 years,
That is
man.
great. Oh my God. And then obviously, two-time granddad about to be, which is a blessing, I can imagine.
It really is. You know, it starts to put everything in perspective. We talk a lot about generational wealth and we talk about leaving the legacy. And now to be able to see, like to see the future, to see who we've been talking about. You know, my wife and I, we've talked about what we wanted to build and the type of family we wanted to nurture. And now to start to see who that's for, man, it's a feeling that I wish for everybody to experience one day.
Well, listen, bro, you guys spoke it into existence, okay? And you receiving the fruits of that labor. So I'm excited for you, so excited for you. And, you know, look, Chris kind of spoke about it a little bit in your bio. I mean, number one, doctor, leadership courses, Titan 100 business leader. I mean, you're all over the place. I can't go on any on platform, social platform, where I don't see your face jump up, okay, or see you doing something. So you're busy, you're building a business. Why did you want to come on a Black Executive Perspective podcast to talk about this topic?
For a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it's very important for exposure in terms of other individuals being able to see three accomplished, Black men doing something positive. For me, exposure was a detriment, and it was also a blessing, meaning growing up I was exposed to a lot of the wrong things and I wasn't able to change my life until I got exposed to the right things. So anytime that I can be on a platform like this that is shouting from the rooftop that, hey, look over here, there's somebody doing something different, there's somebody doing something positive, there's somebody doing something meaningful, then I want to be a part of that. And then I also think, as a Black executive, it's important that our voices be heard. And you have provided the platform for that to happen, for this literally to go all around the world. And so we can't complain about not being seen if we don't show up. And so anytime I have the opportunity to show up, I'm going to show up.
Well, my brother, we're so happy that you did show up. So seem like you're scratching at the bit. You ready to talk about it, my man?
Man, let's dig into it, man. Let's dig into it.
All right, let's talk about it. So look, I want to read some stats with you, just to talk a little bit about where DEI is today. Okay. And today is June 23rd. So on January 20th, 2025, President Trump signed Executive Order 14151, directing all executive branches, agencies to end DEI programs and remove related roles and content. This has led to the dismantling of DEI offices at the CIA, FBI, NASA, Department of Defense, and federal museums. The Financial Times shows that 90% of all S&P 500 firms drop references to DEI in its 2025 annual reports. Firms like Meta, KPMG, Deloitte, Google, and Amazon has scaled back DEI initiatives, citing evolving legal landscapes. And then in these corporations, many are opting for softer terminology, using terms like belonging, inclusion, or culture instead of this explicit DEI language. And then we can go into higher learning and all these things. Now, prior to January 20th, This was a culture that was growing throughout throughout the country. So the question I have to you, what do you make of this recent backlash against DEI, and why do you think it's happening now?
That is a great question. And back to your point of January, many of us that do this work, we were heavily impacted. My company was heavily impacted. First Q1 of this year, seven major companies pulled back their contracts that we had with them as it related to doing this type of training. So we felt it as well, and we've had to pivot. But when we look at a global scale, where this noise, that's what I like to call it, this noise is coming from, a lot of it is fear based. That's what all hate, that's what all racism is rooted in, is fear. And so when the president came out with this language, many of the companies that you just named, they were doing a lot of scrambling, they were doing a lot of running around, and I think they're smart enough to understand that they just had to play the game. And so I don't look at them too negatively. You know, you got to protect the bottom line and protect jobs and things like that. But I don't think any CEO that's worth its weight is not committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things I see, it reminded me of a story growing up. As you guys said, I was raised in Compton, California, and Compton is right across from a city called Long Beach. And growing up, we changed the name of Long Beach to LBC, called it LBC. And when we called it LBC, we took away the allure of it being the beach. We took away the power of it being the beach, because as you guys have traveled and anywhere you go around the world, you know beachfront property is the prime real estate. It's the prime, right? But because we didn't call it Long Beach, we started to call it LBC. The same thing has happened with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We started calling it DEI. And so you take the meaning away from it, because no CEO is against diversity, having a diverse workforce. No CEO is against having equity for their team members. And no CEO is against including the best ideas. And so when I've talked with hundreds of CEOs and I say, are you telling me, because I saw what your company did and I saw the whitewashing of the memos and the mission statements, are you now telling me you don't want a diverse workforce? And they all have told me, no, 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 no. But it was easy to weaponize DEI versus when you say we're getting rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion. When you say that, it makes you wait a minute, diversity, equity, inclusion. But because we made it the same way we made the LBC, not Long Beach, what happened? That made us not put an importance on it anymore. And you know what happened 20 years later? Somebody woke up and said, wait a minute, beachfront property is beachfront property. And now if you go to Long Beach, you see it has nothing but condos. It has $1 million houses, where we who was there could have got this property a long time ago. But because we said it was LBC, and that's what I think is going to happen to many companies, that if they run from diversity, equity, and inclusion, they're going to see themselves lose a lot of market share.
It's time to rethink your protein. AgriLab's protein bars are crafted with high-quality protein, double the leucine, and enriched branched-chain amino acids, essential for optimal muscle recovery. Finally, a protein bar that works as hard as you do. So visit agrilabs.com and use the code BEP to get 20% off. That's agrilabs.com, promo code BEP.
Before we shift into a question I had, you sparked something and inspired this for me. How have you dealt with the concept of the interchangeable connotation of diverse meaning black? Because I've worked at some top companies and we've had many female leaders, executive leaders, C-suite leaders. And you and I both know women have gained more in diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives and equal opportunity and all this other stuff than any other segment of the population. They sued more, they gained more ground, all this other stuff. But when this DEI thing comes about, for whatever reason, people are conveniently forgetting about the fair-hued women that run these companies or that are sitting in high chairs in these companies, and they're using it to attack us and our credibility as Black leaders, and not so much women leaders, except for the president and helicopter pilot.
Right. You know, that's a great point you bring up, Chris, because if you look at the data and you look at the numbers behind DEI and who has really benefited from DEI, it's being Caucasian white women. And it goes back to the language of the laws. It goes back to the language of the laws. So 50 years ago, 60 years ago, America was polarized by this black and white image. Although there were other ethnicities living here, it's always been polarized. When you think about the NAACP is the National Advancement of Colored People, but it's pegged as a black organization, right? When you just see blacks, but it's for all colored people. So when they started writing these laws and they started saying this program is for minorities, they didn't say this program is for a black person. They said it's for minorities. And then once again, somebody woke up and said, wait a minute, what is a minority? Oh, a minority is anyone that is not a part of the popular majority. Oh, wait, does that mean women? Well, you're not a part of the popular majority. That means you. Does that mean Asian? That exactly means Asian. Does that mean LGBT? That means exactly LGBTQ. And so what we found out, and especially now as the Black race, it was so interesting to me how so many of us in our community picked up that fight that the DEI war was against us. We weren't benefiting from it anyway. We weren't, as a whole, as a collective group, we weren't the ones that was benefited from it. So I was kind of perplexed as to why we felt it was our fight, because I think we still have our fight, right? We still have our fight as it relates to being represented. There's still only eight black individuals that are ahead of Fortune 500 companies. So we still have a long way to go. So you can just see in that example, DEI hasn't moved the needle so much for us. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Chris, to call that out where we haven't benefited from it the most. So I wasn't as worried about it affecting me. I felt that most of my success has been on my merit, on my hard work, and the relationships that I've built out. And then I'm not ignorant to believe that all America is racist, but we had a civil war. The fact that we had a civil war means there were some people on the other side who were against slavery. And so I don't like to just blanket say, oh, America is racist. What I do like to highlight and bring out is there's systems in places and there's some people in places. And I think that's who we need to attack and go after.
I'll say this before I
go ahead, Chris.
I wanted to play a clip, but I wanted to say this. My nephew's a professional basketball player, and I told him the difference between a star and a superstar is opportunities. So one of the things that this is causing is a decrease in what should be marginal opportunities for us, and that's where I have a fear. But Tony, did you want to have something to say before we play?
Yeah. Before we play the clip, Dr. Will, you said number one, everything you said I agree with. I'm pretty sure Chris agrees with 100%, right? But let's put a little bit more context about some of it. Okay, so number one, DEI was weaponized as a political thing to divide people. Okay. And so the narrative around black people didn't do that. That was the narrative that they created to make it easy for there to be division. Okay. Number two, you just talked about the facts in terms of the stats. Black people for the most part, didn't benefit from DEI. Name a company that their employment roles went up 10%. They can't name them because it didn't happen. All right. Number three, going back to 60 years ago when they came up with affirmative action, and you said you hit it right on the head. Black people really didn't get, didn't get a lot out of that. But because they used the minority loophole, right, then all the black people were the one fighting for it, all right? And then every other group benefited. Let me give you an example because you brought it up. You said the Fortune 500 companies, CEOs, right? Let me, just so the audience understands, to be clear, this affirmative action was 1964. In 1964, there were no black, any other color, and women of the Fortune 500 companies. None. Okay. Then in 1972, I think it was, the wife of my man at the Washington Post died, so she became the first woman CEO of the Fortune 500. Right now, you said there's 8 black people. Hold on, let me finish my numbers. You said there were 8 black people in the Fortune 500. It may be less than that now, but here's the thing: there's 72 women on the Fortune 500. And there are only 8, I think it's less than that, black people. So you can see there, that ain't got nothing to do with DEI. You can see there that was, these programs and these things were benefiting other groups except black people. But when you say the word, our faces are the ones that show up on it, right? And so that's the issue. It's the narrative that's pushed out to use race to divide. And it's easy to get people to follow along in any type of thing. If you just said it was always black and white. Okay, so if I can put race behind this, it's easily for me to divide them, because a lot of people, look, they're getting stuff and we're not getting. Why are they doing stuff for them? Why are they setting up these programs for them? And we know it wasn't true. That's the part that drives me crazy, right? We know it wasn't true, but we're now the flag holders, we're the face of the flag, I should say, when these issues come up. But next, net, let me play a quick little clip because I want to get your feedback on what's going on or what happened with some of these companies. I want to see, what do you think about it?
Is this about DEI programs in totality, or is it just too much badly thought out diversity, equity and inclusion?
I think it's the latter. I do think that the DEI industry, as it were, has sometimes done things in the name of diversity, equity, inclusion that sadly have been the exact opposite. So we've had policies that perhaps have made people feel excluded or preferring one type of person over another. They've lost sight of merit being absolutely compatible with diversity and used language that has been off-putting, acronyms and so forth. And sometimes done things like, I know I've got a friend who's a wonderful sculptor, and he explained that there was an art exhibition of sculptures in Britain and there were no white, straight male sculptures being exhibited. So that sort of thing really gets people's backs up and has made this issue much more politicized than it was ever intended to be.
So what say you to that, Dr. Will? Because the irony doesn't escape me, and I'm sure as a learned man, it doesn't escape you, that they said that this process made people feel excluded when the process was created because people felt excluded. So there's a paradox that seems to be embedded in that statement. But what say you in your experience traveling the world and hearing these type of things?
Yeah. Once again, it's so laughable when you think about it, right? When you think about all of these, go back to slavery, right? When you go back to slavery, and they were calling us animals, but somehow our women were ended up pregnant. So how do you, in your mind, justify in your mind that if they're animals and you're sleeping with them, then what does that make you? Right? That's how laughable it is when you hear some of this stuff. They're animals, they're savages, but you're sneaking into the cabins to get our women pregnant, these animals. So if you're sleeping with an animal, what does that make you? Right. And so when I hear this in these contexts, once again, as we said earlier, about it not benefiting us, if you just look at the numbers as a whole. Here's what I've realized, though, and what they realized, is that collectively, as Black Americans, African Americans, we're real emotional people. We're real emotional people. And because we're emotional people, it makes us an easy target. And I'll give you a prime example. Let's look at the data again. If you look at police shootings, in America, and we talk about unjustified shootings, there's more white people that get shot by the police unjustly than black people. And we can go, well, it's more of them than us. That's not my point. My point is, you can't name 5 white people that have been shot by the police. Why is that? Because when the news, who is a business, goes and talks to Ted, said, Ted, your son got shot. Oh, that's horrible. That's not good news. When they come to our neighborhood, they're gonna get the dramatic. They're gonna get the NAACP showing up. They're gonna get the marches. They're gonna get all of the bravado, right? That's entertainment. That's what America has been built on. So when we even circle back around to the DEI, the reactions that they're getting, once again, to your point, Chris and Tony, you didn't see women saying, wait a minute, you're about to impact us. Wait a minute. You didn't see that. You didn't see LGBT rise up and say, wait a minute. When we looked at, we said this earlier, that while everybody else was benefiting, it seems like we're always fighting, we're always marching, while everybody else is just going to get the benefit. The benefit is here. The benefit is here. And so what I learned years ago, the biggest trick that I think has been played against the Black community is to keep making us think that we're not citizens of America. And as long as you think you're not a citizen, you'll keep fighting for citizen rights. And then what do we see? We see other nationalities move over here, get a green card, get naturalized, and they understand what it means to be a citizen. That means I have every right and every privilege as an American citizen. And so we keep wondering, why are these other nationalities moving here and progressing faster than Black people who have been here 400 years? Because we still don't see ourselves as citizens. And so if you don't see yourself as a citizen, I give this example all the time in my talks. Tony, I can come over your house and you can say, Will, make yourself at home. Make yourself at home. But in my mind, I keep telling myself, oh, this is Tony's house. This is not really my house. So at night, Chris, when I want to go get some cookies and milk, I'm kind of timid. Oh, you know what? Tony may hear me. He may hear me. Or if I do get the courage to go to the kitchen, oh man, it's only one glass of milk left. I don't want to take the last glass. Now, if Tony's son came downstairs and Tony's son saw that there was only one glass of milk, guess what Tony's son gonna do? Take it to the head. Why? Because Tony's son knows I'm at home and the milk belongs to me. The cookies belong to me, even if it's the last. We keep playing timid. We keep saying one day, one glad morning, oh, on the other side, we finally going to get there. We have to wake up to realize, wait a minute, I'm an American citizen and I have every right and privilege as everyone else. And that's how I'm going to conduct myself. And then if you try to buck up against that, then there are processes in place that I'm aware of. And that's what we're going to do. I'm not going to march. I'm not going to go have no sit-in. I'm going down and say, hey, I just tried to get a business license and they told me no. I just tried to get this and they said I could. You need to show me as an American citizen why I can't get this. Not as a Black man, not as a Black woman, but as an American citizen. And so when we start understanding that, I think we move the needle, because here's what we don't understand. Do you know we've only voted in the last 13 presidential elections? We're just getting used to being citizens. It's 1968, Civil Voting Rights Act. It's only 13 presidential elections ago. We're just getting comfortable with being citizens. And so we got to wake up while everybody else is going to get all the benefits and the rights, we still out here, like, even, even when you look at Voting Rights Act, we don't even need a Voting Rights Act. Why? Because if you are a citizen of America, you can vote. If you are a citizen of America, you can vote. There's no need for voting rights. We keep asking for rights that we already have. It's like you asking me, Tony, can you wear that yellow Michigan shirt? It's yours. You ask me, it's yours. But if I can convince you, no, Tony, that's my shirt. That's my shirt. If you want to wear that shirt, you got to come ask me. And you got the receipt. You didn't pay for it. And you asking me with the receipt in your hand, can you wear your shirt? That's what we look like.
So Dr. Will, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you a companion story that I would love for you to use in some way, shape, or form in your travels. A partner of mine, we working at the headquarters of a top 12 company, and brother named Chris, and he told me this story, and it never escaped me. He said he was in New York. This was years ago. It's going to date it. He got in a cab. So this let you know how long it was. Got in the cab, and he got in the cab with an African cat, brother from Africa. And dude was real talkative, jovial, upbeat. And he was like, not giving him no energy. You know what I'm saying? You know how we get down like. And so dude was real abrupt and was like, hey, do you have a problem? And he was like, no, I don't got a problem. I don't feel Africans. I don't like Africans because y'all don't fool with us. And so, but it opened a dialogue. And the brother was wise enough, the African cat was wise enough to say, okay, let's break this down because I need to understand why that is. Just as a monolith, you don't like Africans. And my boy said, y'all come across as arrogant and entitled, and y'all act like y'all better than black folks, African Americans and this and that, whatever. And the African brother said, I don't think that's it. It's just that we haven't had the audacity conditioned out of us like you guys have. So we know when the rights say this, and we've been nationalized, we've become citizens, or our parents are citizens, we know the rules, and we make them follow the rules. Whereas you guys don't want to see a badge. You just want to, you acquiesce a lot. And it made my guy stand down and say, dang, he hadn't thought about it that way. Over time, now I'm not making it as an excuse, but what I'm saying is over time, we've had the audacity conditioned away from us by design, by Jim Crow, by all these other mechanisms and systemic dynamics. And so it's tough for us to get back, like you said, on 13 elections in. How long before we get back to where we feel ourselves and feel empowered? How do we work that out?
No, you're absolutely right. That's we're having an identity crisis, right? We're having an identity crisis. What we got to understand is when we look at ourselves, I used to work for the immigration office. And so I would have people come in and they knew the law. They knew one particular time. I remember a new law was just passed. President Bush had just changed the law for any American, for any soldier that was serving in the United States Army. It used to be you had to serve for 3 years. You had to serve for 3 years, and then you were eligible to get your naturalization. And so when 9/11 happened, he changed it to all you needed was 1 day of service. So if you were a non-citizen in the United States Army, that's something we can talk about. We're the only nation that allows non-citizens to be in our army. You only had to serve one day. I remember getting to my office, and no lie, gentlemen, when I got to my office, there were about 300 people at my front door. There's 300 people at my office door. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was World War III or something. And I'm asking them, I'm like, what's going on? Why not the office? They're like, you didn't read? You didn't see the mandate that just came down? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I get into my office. I talk to my boss. I say, hey man, what's going on? Hey man, a memorandum just came down last night, 12:01. I'm like, how did they know? How did they know? They knew all their rights. They knew that they now could apply for citizenship after being in the Army for 1 day. And so, Chris, to your point about what your friend was saying, we lost that. If one thing has been taken from us, it's our identity. The very first time I went to Ghana, I was very excited. But at the same time, I was sad because even though I was in the motherland, even though I was in the birthplace of civilization, I didn't know if I was actually from Ghana, if I was from Nigeria, if I was from Cameroon, if I was from Sierra Leone, if I was from South Africa. See, when a German, when they come to America, they still know where they're from. When an Italian comes to America, they still know I'm from Sicily, I'm from here, I'm from there. When a Latino, a Mexican comes, they can tell you what part of Mexico. So if anything, not only was our dignity stole from us, not only was our birthplace stole, but our identity. And we're still in 2025 have an identity. And so when you, as a Black person, when you say, well, I don't know where I'm from in Africa, and I don't want to claim my U.S. citizenship, then where does that leave you? Who are you then? What's your identity? If you went back to the continent of Africa, there's not a country there that's going to fight for you. If you're not identifying that you're an American, then America won't fight for you. So that leaves us in limbo. And many of us still find ourselves in limbo because we're having an identity crisis. But for those of us like you and I who have realized, wait a minute, I'm a citizen. These are my rights. This is what, as a veteran, I have particular rights as a veteran that other people don't have. And so as an American citizen, I have rights that non-citizens don't have. And I'm fully aware of it. And so that's one of the reasons why your show is so important, to show that there's a pathway in America for you to realize who you are, and so you can succeed.
I love it. I love it, my brother. Let me ask you this. So, and you know, when you were saying, you know, and you're right, well, our identity, because you're right. You go to Africa, I don't know, you know, now they come up with DNA tests and you figure, you know, you're from North Africa or Egypt, but where, right? Where, right? Here's the thing, though. I'm just going to go back to you on the citizenship thing, right? And I hear you, because there is a segment of the population don't know what their rights are, but then there's a huge segment that does. And that segment is out there trying to, I don't want to say trying, they're out there making it happen. Okay, they're out there building their business, or they're doing well in corporate, or you know, they're about to start a business. They got a farm, so they're just trying to live the dream of America. They're trying to be part of the citizenship and all that it offers. The challenge is, and you spoke about this a few minutes ago, about the systems that's set up in America. And let's be fair now. We have to be fair. Those systems, because I don't know what it is when it comes to Black people versus everybody else. You know, you talked about it a minute ago, where somebody can come here from another country, get their green card, and kick butt, right? But as soon as Black people start rising, they become active citizens. They're using their God-given country rights to start a business or do whatever the case may be. There's always the goalpost moves, or the system is set up specifically to push back against them. So what would you tell if people are listening to and watching our episode and they're saying, Dr. Will, I'm right with you, but as I navigate the world, I'm not looking for excuses, okay? I want to activate my citizenship, and when I try to, I get a ton of pushback from a system in the United States that's there, set up, once they set the country up to push back against me.
Yeah, so understanding the game that we're playing. The game that we're playing is called capitalism. And in capitalism, it's this thing of the strongest survive. And so history has shown us, and even here recently, our current president, he has shown you that he is not prejudiced against anybody. He'll give it to anybody. People that look like him against his own ex-vice president. That's capitalism. He doesn't care if you're white, Black, Latino, Hispanic, whatever. Capitalism says, if you're in my way, I'm going to knock you down. If you're in my way, I'm going to knock you down. And so what I've seen in this America that we live in, we talked about it when we first started about fear, right? It's because it's competition. It is. It's a race. That's what racism is. It's a race. It's a race. And so we're racing to whatever we feel the finish line is. And for whatever reason, Well, it's not for whatever reason. It's because we were the competition, right? Soon as slavery was ended, they said, okay, we had the upper hand. Now we need to figure out another upper hand. The other upper hand was what? Politics. They started writing laws. Okay, all right, we need to figure out the upper hand. With politics. And so they started going to politics, and you can figure out where the competition is or where the issue is by what they try to keep you from. If voting wasn't important, they wouldn't try to keep you from voting. So that has to let you know, wait a minute, because we have people in our, oh man, voting don't mean nothing. And if it don't mean nothing, why would they try to keep you from it? Why would they try to bar you from voting? So whenever you see whatever they're trying to block, that's what you need to pay attention to. Whatever they're trying to block, that's what you need to pay attention to. If they're saying, no, we don't want you to vote, we're going to make it, you're going to have a passport, 2 ID cards, and lick the bottom of your shoe to vote. Man, vote must be powerful then. If they're going through all of this to keep me from voting. So for those of you that are navigating, one of the best things that I've ever heard explained in America is from Colin Powell. And he said that his father told him, America is like a amputee with a missing arm. You're not going to get rid of racism. You're not going to get rid of bias. You have to be aware of it. You got to be aware of it. And so that person with the one arm, do you sit in the corner and complain that you only have one arm, or do you take that one arm and swing the hell out of life? You just got to go for the swings, right? And so that's where, even for me personally, it's been there. It's been pitfalls. It's been obstacles. It's been, as we said earlier, opposition set up. I'm just aware of it. But I think where I differ at is I'm not going to let it distract me. I'm not going to get involved with arguing with you. I'm going to get around the distraction. When I get to where I need to come back, I'll talk to you, deal with you later. But what we keep doing is stopping right here and just keep arguing. And we stop progression. And then to your point, Tony, what happens? Everybody else keep on moving. While they see us arguing and picking in and sitting in, hey, well, I'm glad y'all distracted them. I'm glad y'all distracted them, right? And so we don't have we don't have, and I know some people are going to push back on, well, if we don't fight, who's going to fight? And things would have never changed. I'm not saying that we don't fight, but I'm like Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood said, you know what, instead of marching, I'm going to get a part of the judicial system because that's where the game is really being played. The game is being played over here. So he told Martin, he says, okay, while y'all marching, somebody needs to be learning this law. Somebody needs to be learning this system. And so if y'all going to march, somebody got to be able to get you out of jail. Everybody can't be marching. And so for those that are committed to that, I don't get in their way. If you're committed to that, I'm about to go get this money, and then if you need me to bail you out, I'll come bail you out. But we can't all be in the jail looking at each other and nobody can bail us out.
You talked about capitalism and that being the primary kind of measuring stick for success in the United States. One of the things is you talk to titans of industry and people of influence that lead, and they talk about the abolition of diversity, equity, and inclusion. How do you reconcile the fact that they're allowing social pressures for the tail to wag the dog? Are those conversations had? And how do they not look at the fact that if you look at like you said, when you break it down to diversity, equity, and inclusion, there is a beneficial component to having diversity. There's a beneficial component financially to having more people vested or invested in the success of this thing, as opposed to exclusion. So when you have these conversations, how do you propose that they embed this into a strategy as opposed to looking at it as an ancillary obstacle to their success?
Yeah, we got to be honest. And when I say honest, what we're asking a lot of people to do is to display a level of courage that they simply don't have. We're asking people to be Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was a unique individual. He sacrificed his career. And so what we're asking people to do is fall on the sword. And very few people are going to fall on the sword. And so when we do have those individuals that do, that's why they're so admired. That's why Martin Luther King was so admired. That's why Malcolm X was so admired. They sacrificed everything, and very few people. When you're asking a CEO to give up his lifestyle, to give up his bonus, to maybe change the trajectory of his family, to move out of the gated community, to stand for what's right. Who did we say was leading these companies? Right? They're mostly Caucasian men who have never been asked to be courageous before. They haven't had to. Right?
Because when things don't affect you, right? Why would you
That's
jump
what I'm
in?
about to say.
Right? That's just
like it's
Go
the
ahead,
out
buddy.
of sight, out of mind. Like where you gentlemen live, there's a homeless problem. Where I live, there's a homeless problem. But we're not raising the bank. We don't see it every day. I'm in my ecosystem. I go to my store, Whole Foods, to my church, back home. In that little ecosystem, I don't see any homeless people. I have to go off the track. I have to be intentional about, right? I then have to, when I want to feel good about myself and say, oh, let me take my son to go feed the homeless on Thanksgiving and go feed the homeless on Christmas. I have to be intentional to say, wait a minute, Will, what do they do the other 363 days of the year? If I'm not intentional about that, then I don't think about it. So, Chris, does it need to be done? Yes. Are we asking people to be heroes that haven't signed up for that? And so for the ones who do, I'm thinking for like a Greg Popovich, right? San Antonio, who always speaks out, for Steve Kerr, unless they're settled, in their conviction. And here's another thing about that, Chris. I tell this to CEOs all the time. If you're not diverse in your personal life, it's going to be difficult to be diverse in your professional life. And so when you look at I was just listening to an interview the other day, a basketball player who played for San Antonio, and the young man, he was explaining that his mom had got into a situation, and Pop said, man, I'm going to move your mom. I'm going to move your mom to San Antonio. Not you don't have to pay for this. The organization, I'm going to move your mom to San. Pop has, as we say in our community, he's been to the picnic before, right? If you've never been to the picnic, if you've never, and this is, for my Caucasian brothers and sisters that may even be watching this is why your voice is needed. Like, once again, if you're talking to Tony or Chris or Will, we're not the race baiters. We're not pulling the race card. If I used to tell my friends, if I tell you that there's an issue, if I tell you that as a black man who's a taxpayer, who's been educated at the highest level, if I'm afraid when I get pulled over by the police, then it's an issue. Because I'm not a race baiter. That's not where I come from. So be willing to hear it. Be willing. Let's look at the source. A person like Tony, a person like Chris is telling you this is an issue, then it probably is an issue based on the source, because we're not the ones waving the rag saying everything's race. That's not me. I'm not that guy saying everything's racist. But there are some races. And for you to act like they are not, then you just want to be oblivious to the truth.
Buddy, totally agree with you 100%. Let's stay there for a second in terms of the CEOs. You state DEI is not dead, okay? It's evolving, right? So what does it look like when a company does it right? What do you advise those CEOs that you chat with in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion, in terms of creating something that is about, let's be fair, capitalism? It is about being able to make money and being able to have a diverse organization be able to help you do that. What would be the right steps?
Yeah, so I've been having a lot of conversations with CEOs over the last 6 months. And it comes down to, once again, two types of CEOs. One, I say, have been to the picnic and they're going to stand 10 toes down. This is what we stand for, Will. This is what we believe. And then there's those other ones. Here's a statistic for you that may sound wow. 80 about 80% about 80% of white people haven't had interactions with different
No, that's fair.
minorities.
That's true. Yep.
If you like what you hear and want to join us on this journey of making uncomfortable conversations comfortable, please subscribe to a Black Executive Perspective podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe now to stay connected for more episodes that challenge, inspire, and lead the change.
And that sounds crazy,
Yep.
but if you just look at the landscape of America, it's not too many blacks in Montana, Utah, South Dakota, Maine, but
No.
right? We're 10 places. We're Detroit, we're Atlanta, we're LA. You see what I mean? And so that's not hard to imagine, right? Once you think about it.
Right.
And so I get it. I get it. You from Circleville, Ohio, I get it. You've never seen a black person. Relationship is about relating. If you can't relate, it's hard to be in a relationship. And so I'm challenging a lot of our CEOs. This is a prime time to get out your comfort zone. Get out your comfort zone, walk the floors, and get acquainted with different nationalities. Get acquainted with what the world looks like, because the world is not changing. It's not going back to 1960, 1940. So if you as a CEO are going to survive, then you need to explore these different opportunities. And then the last thing I leave them with is this. Who do you really want to be when you go to bed at night? Who do you really want to be? What do you really want to be known for? And you have an opportunity to make your stake and to make your claim. And that's a personal, some rise up to the challenge and some don't. Once again, man, I got my stock, my family's doing good. I don't want to upset the apple cart.
I'm not giving that up for nobody.
You will, but that's just, this problem is bigger than me. And that's their prerogative, right? But I do want to say that there are so many that are standing up, and there are so many that are willing to fall on that sword. And but it goes back to a personal preference about who do you really want to be. It goes to this platform here, Will, for you to talk about this subject. Who do you want to be? Do you want to shy away from this? Do you just want to stick in your cubbyhole and act like we still don't have issues in America, like everything is hunky-dory because everything is okay? Like I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what those accolades say. I still have cousins down in Compton. I still have homeboys down in Compton. So I could be in Compton one day and be in the White House the next day. Like that's my life. That's my true life. And so I can't ignore, even though at my level and where I am, systematic racism really doesn't impact me. I wave at the police. But I realize
they know your name. The police in my neighborhood know my name.
Every morning when I'm walking, they wave at me.
Hey, how you doing, my man?
But I also realize that's not everybody's reality. And that's what I want the other side to realize, our Caucasian brothers and sisters, whatever your reality is, to realize that just may not be everybody's reality, and to be open to that and to understand that if someone on the other side is saying, this is what's happening to me, they're probably not crying wolf. And now that we have social media and now we have cameras, we're starting to see it. Like things that we see on camera, this is things that I was seeing all the way back in the 80s, the police mistreating. In Compton, our police department got closed down. Have you ever heard of a police department getting shut down? It was so corrupt that our police department got shut down. And so that's unheard of. In this community where I live, that would be unheard. What? The police shut down.
There's no question.
And so be open that there are some challenges that we have in America. No matter how great America is, two things can be true.
So
I love it, buddy.
I have conversations often with business leaders and CEOs, and one of the things that has happened, and you spoke about this, Dr. Will, the fear of litigation has made them take these things off of their websites and off of their information and things of that nature. But I've not seen the actual repercussion of that fear that would lead to this. This is an impression, right? And the problem with the diversity, equity, and inclusion push now is that you shouldn't responsibly be in charge and only listen to negative correlation. So if you say things are bad because of black folks being here or black folks being there or some people feeling bad or whatever the case may be, the pendulum has to swing both ways. And why don't we do a good enough job of highlighting the positive correlation to these CEOs of having diversity, equity, inclusion, as opposed to them ringing the bell of negative correlation, where if I got too many black folks that's sitting in C-suites or whatever, then my company is not as, because it's hard to prove that. I can consult with someone that do a $7 billion deal, and I can't say I did a $7 billion. It's a lot of cogs in the machine that make that deal come to fruition. But we tend to take us and say we are making it, if it's bad, it's us. If it's good, it's them. How do we dispel that as a consequence?
Yeah. So to two of your points, the first point, once again, we go back to fear, and it does matter who the big bad wolf is, right? And so with this big bad wolf that we have now, you do have to listen. And I think a lot of CEOs are, once again, taking the standpoint of, I'm trying to protect the whole. I'm trying to protect the whole. I'm trying to protect our employees. I'm trying to protect our company. As the captain of the ship, do you have to sacrifice? Do you say I'm going to sacrifice some to save the whole? That's part of the conversation. But then once again, when we bring our CEOs back to the data, once again, what we're finding out is, number one, DEI has not impacted the Black community as it's being perceived, right? As it's being perceived. And once again, you see this all throughout history. You saw this happen in Germany when Hitler was there. They used scare tactics, like, you're not going to have bread if they get bread, right? And so that's what's going on. Like when we look at our Latino brothers and sisters and they're saying, oh, they're taking our jobs. What jobs are they doing that white Caucasian people are trying to do? They're not trying to clean the hotels. They're not trying to, work in the strawberry fields. But once again, when you're afraid, you'll believe anything. You'll believe anything. And so one of the examples that I use in my presentations is I put a picture of a pit bull on the screen. And I say, what's your reaction? Oh my God. Now, you've never met this dog before, but the perception is that all pit bulls are mean. That's your perception. So if that's your perception, when you see this dog coming toward you, you're going to respond. You're going to respond in that way. You don't know who trained the dog. You don't know if the dog have any teeth. You just know in your mind, pit bulls are bad. And so the marketing, once again, the marketing in America, what has the marketing been? If there's white people, Latino people, Asian people getting shot by the police, and you can't name, if I offered you $1 million right now, you can't name 5 white people that have been wrongly shot by the police. Why is that? You got to start asking yourself, why is that? When you look at the data, let's just look at the data. We pulled up the FBI report, right? The statistics. That's what you're going to see. We all now know, if you do any study about this, crime is all about proximity. You live by white people, you're going to get robbed by white people. You live by Latino people, you're going to get robbed by Latino people.
There's white on white crime, just like there's black on black crime. It's basically who you
live
with.
Here's the deal, right? Here's the deal. Imaging. How many of you remember the Beverly Hillbillies? So even when they wanted to depict themselves in a bad way, they still made them millionaires. Think about that. Y'all complaining that we don't show rednecks and we don't show poor white trash. Okay, we're gonna show it to you, but they won the lottery. They won. You see what I mean? But when you looked at us, it was Times. It was Sanford and Son. These were the images.
All the low.
It wasn't right.
Exactly.
And so when you start to think about years and years, people don't understand this. When every superhero, when Snow White and Superman and Santa Claus, and once again in my presentations, I have this imagery.
Jesus.
We don't even want to go there, right?
Go there, right?
I put this picture up. I put this picture up of a black Superman, of a black Santa Claus, and a black Snow White, and you should see the reactions. And I say, if this looks weird to you, that's the problem, because a fictional character shouldn't look weird to you, no matter what color it is, because it's fictional. It's fictional.
Yeah, but to your point though, my brother, and you're hitting it right on the head, right? That was done on purpose, okay? Because the bottom line is there's also a negative reaction there's another side of that reaction as well, right? And that's our reaction. Because you ever saw the movie Cry Freedom? Okay? There was a scene in there where Kevin Kline goes with Denzel, who's supposed to be Steve Biko, because he wants to go into a black area. He's never been there, right? And he's a so-called white liberal, right? So they're sitting there at a bar after he takes them through, and then one of the guys was saying, yeah, before you guys came here, it was my brother this and my sister that. We looked out for the whole community. And then Kevin Kline said, well, you guys did have tribal wars. And then the brother said, well, what about World War I and World War II? Okay? And then Denzel said the most key phrase. He said, you see, if it ain't white, I'm paraphrasing. He said, if it ain't white, it ain't right. And he said, but your genius is you convinced us of that as well. See my point? So even if black people saw a black Santa Claus or they saw a black Snow White, or they'll be like, that don't look right, because to your point of the imagery that was set up, that it had to be all white, and if it's all white, it's right. All right. If it's black, it's a byproduct of, and then that's where the identity, we can go on and on. But let me hear your thoughts on that.
You're absolutely right. So I'll give you, just to share with the audience, my trajectory. When I grew up in Compton, Compton was predominantly all black. So I grew up with a black mayor. It was Mayor Tucker. I grew up with Tom Bradley, who was the first black mayor of a major city in Los Angeles. Maxine Waters was always at my house with my grandmother. They worked on all this type of stuff. So I used to always I saw black excellence, right? Then I joined the military, and I leave the United States, and I go over to Europe. The military is at that time was doing a lot better with race and things like that. So I saw black leaders. When I got into basic training, my drill sergeants were black. So I now see these two black powerful men, Drill Sergeant Steele and Drill Sergeant Sturgis, in leadership positions. And then I live in Europe for the next 15 years. So from the time I was 19 to the time I was 35, my formidable years, I was outside of America. And so I wasn't getting brainwashed with a lot of, these nuances. And so I remember in 2008 when Barack Obama was running for president, and I saw everybody getting really excited about a black president. And I said, that's really interesting, because we have a whole continent full of black presidents. If you just go over and look at Africa, you can see a black president.
No, exactly. Pretty much everyone.
Every single one of them are black presidents, right? But to your point, Tony, because our eye gates, especially being American, we're just so diluted to think everything revolves around America. We missed that picture. So, yeah, I was happy for Obama, but I wasn't taken aback like, oh, my God, the first black president. Sierra Leone had a black woman president. Where I lived in Germany, we had Angela Merkel, who was the chancellor. So I saw women leadership. I saw black leadership. So it was no big deal. To your point, like they look at, to your point, Chris, when your friend was the African brother in the car, in the cab, when blacks are getting excited about a black president, for him, he's like, what are you doing? I've had black presidents my whole life. That's a different perspective, right? That's a whole different perspective. And so when you look at entertainers, I mentioned this because, once again, when I lived in Europe, the thing that I realized was that we were viewed by the rest of the world totally different. when I lived in Germany, Germany was the very first time I got identified as an American. My next door neighbor, my German neighbor, they didn't say, come look at my black friend. They would always introduce me as, this is Will, my American friend. That was the first time I had ever been
Correct.
associated with being American. I'm like, what to? They would come and talk to me and they would ask me, Will, what's going on with America? And I'm like, you're asking me to give my opinion of America? Because I had an identity issue. I didn't identify as an American at the time. Even though I'm in the Army, and I still, because you know how, oh man, I'm just here, man. I just get off the block, man. I'm not doing this for God and country, man. I'm not patriotic or anything like that. I'm just trying to pay my college, right?
You sound just like a couple of my friends when I was in the Army. You sound just like them. Yep, go ahead.
So it was the first time I started identifying myself. Oh, I am American. Oh, yeah, I am an American. Okay, and so when they started talking about America in a negative way, I said, hold on now. It's my country you're talking about. Hold on. But that was the first time I ever defended America. The first time I ever defended America. Because as long as I was in America, I had this divide between I'm still fighting to be American. And so for us, once again, to me, it goes back to this identity crisis that we have to realize, number one, who we are. I'm not saying stop fighting. I'm saying fight from the position of who you are. Fight from the position that you are an American. An American fights different. They say, golly, I'm American. I'm not putting up with this. Right? It's totally different. What? It's the audacity. I'm an American. I'm saying fight from your true identity. Don't fight from a disadvantage. Fight from your advantage.
You talked about the aspects of propaganda and imagery, and you now, as a real estate mogul, as a best-selling author, as a top-tier consultant, all these things. Where was the vision for you to have the audacity to become this man, and how do you inseminate the youth, or how do you encourage the youth to do it? Was it easy? Was it simple? You said you had some trials, tribulations, things of that nature. How do you see yourself as this, iconic figure, and how do you submit that or transmit that to the next generation of leaders?
Yeah, it goes back to what Tony asked me earlier about why I show up. There was a black man in the Army that showed up for me. His name was Sergeant McCants, and he saw this young kid that maybe had some potential if maybe he had the right words spoken to him. And Sergeant McCants, one day, he called me over and he said, let me talk to you real quick, Moreland. Let me talk to you. I say, hey, what's going on, Sergeant McCants? He says, I just want to say thank you. And I said, thank you? Well, for what? He said, I just wanted to say thank you. And I said, what are you talking about? And he says, you were at the PX. This is a little shopping center, right, for the military. You were at the PX this weekend, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I saw you. Like, and if I'm not mistaken, you were buying some shoes, right? Oh, yeah, sir. I just bought the new Jordans. He said, that's what I thought. Thank you. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what? He says, let me show you something. And he takes me over to the desk and he opens up this binder and he shows me his portfolio. I didn't know what a portfolio was. I didn't know what I was looking at, but he pointed down and he showed me his shares of Nike. And he says, every time you buy a pair, you're helping me put my son through school. So thank you. And he began to break it down for me, what a portfolio, what a stock was. And then this is when he really blew my mind. He was driving around, I'll never forget, this was in the early 90s, but he was driving around in like a 1982 Toyota Tercel. Just driving around. And I watched him for 2 years. And then one day he calls me into the office again. He says, I want to show you something. He takes me out to the parking lot. He shows me this 7 Series BMW. I'll never forget it. It was hunter green with peanut butter interior. It was bad. I mean, the chrome rims and everything. He says, you like that? I said, man, that's bad, Sarge. He says, that's not the baddest thing about it. Hold on. He pulls open the glove compartment. He pulls out a piece of paper. I don't know what this is. He said, I want you to look at that. I said, yeah, what's this? He says, read it. What does it say? It says title. He says, yeah, you know what's different about this BMW and all the other BMWs on post? I own mine. 2 years later, I get out the military. The very first job I get, I'm working at the credit union on post. I'm there one day. A phone call comes in. Hey, thank you for calling Andrews Federal Credit Union. How can I help you? Yeah, this is Mr. McCants. I need to do a transfer. I said, Mr. McCants. I said, sorry, McCants, is this you? He says, who is this? I said, this is Sergeant Moreland. I'm out the military now. I work at the bank. He says, this is me, man. I'm retired. I'm in Atlanta right now. I said, man, good to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a while. He says, yeah, man, I need you to do something for me. He says, I need you to transfer $75,000 from my money market account to my checking account because I'm getting ready to pay off my house down here in Atlanta that I just had built. I said, what? You getting ready to do what? I said, man, I need your number. And he then, after I called him that weekend, he got me into real estate. He says, man, every year you should buy you a property. Every year you should buy you a property. He says, once you get to 10 properties, he gave me the blueprint. He says, every year buy your property anywhere between 70, and this is, everything's relative. This was back in the 90s. He said, buy your property between 70 and 100K. After you have 10 of them, you're going to have a net worth of $1 million. If you have a net worth of $1 million in this United States of America, you can get whatever you want in America. You can get whatever you want. I said, 10 houses? Man, you, what? You, 10 houses? Can't even, I'm from California, so I'm, 10, what? 10 houses. So to your point, Chris, what I do is I try to find those young men, I try to find those young leaders and just drop a seed. Maybe they'll listen. The Bible says it like this: some plant, some water, God add the increase. And so coming on a platform like yours, I hope that we're dropping seeds. Every time you guys come up, you're just dropping seeds, because I'm not that doom and gloom guy. We have some excellent people in our community, and just like me, they just need an opportunity. They just need someone to disrupt their thinking. They just need someone to tell them there's a different way. If all of us, we just go to our toolbox and we can only pull the tools that's in our toolbox until somebody tells you how to put different tools in there. When I grew up, we didn't have a screwdriver. You know what we used? A butter knife. When I grew up, we didn't have no hammer. You know what I used? I used my mom's high heel. I used a skillet. You see what I mean?
So true.
But now when I look at my house,
so
I
true.
have a toolbox. I have a tool shed. That little stuff like that trips me out. Right there, I'm like, man, I got a hammer. Man, I got nails. I got the tool that you really need. And that's what most people just need to realize, man. There's a way. There's a different way than selling drugs. There's a different way than being angry. There's a different way than, being discouraged about what's going on. There's a path forward. And, every week that you guys show up, you're prime examples of you can do it. You can do it.
Well, I definitely want to, first of all, congratulate you on walking the walk and congratulate you on your young daughter being a young homeowner.
Yeah.
So you absolutely, she's recently
She
a homeowner,
is.
right?
We've been, once again, these conversations, right? These conversations, and each one teach one. And so we've been telling, our kids about financial responsibility and training them. And I told my daughter when she left, I said, you have the blueprint. Like I expect nothing less than by time you're 25, you should be a net worth millionaire. You need to go buy 3 houses and you'll be a net worth millionaire. Go buy 3 houses. You'll be able to do that. You have a 800 credit score. You're going to have the job behind you with the Navy. You're going to get your VA loan, no money down. That's exactly what you should be doing. And so, it's definitely possible. When my daughter got married, we were able, her mother and I were able to pay for the wedding. So the money that they was going to spend on the wedding, they were able to put it down on their home. And now she's as we say, living the American dream. And she's 22 years old now. Her house has already got equity in it, and that's the game, and that's the conversations that we need to be exposed to. So thank you so much, Chris, for even bringing that up, because hopefully it encourages somebody. The earlier you can learn this stuff, the earlier you can get on this path, because it definitely is. It's definitely possible.
Well, we definitely see that there's some inflation because you had to buy 10 houses and she only has
man,
to buy
you see
3
that?
now, right?
You see that? And that's the game. And and I was telling her, I was sitting down and I'm like, it's all made up. Like I was explaining to her about equity. I said, in 2 years, somebody's going to come here and do appraisal, and off their word, watch this, they're going to create some fake money. They're going to create some fake money. They're going to say, oh, you bought your house for $300K. It's now worth $350. You can now go to the bank with that fake money of $50,000 equity and say, I need 80% of this. And she was amazed. She was like, how am I going to get my next house? You go pull out an equity loan and now go use that as a down payment for your next house. And she was like, but where did the $50,000 come from? That's the game they're playing that we don't know.
That's called capitalism.
They're making.
That's capitalism.
And so when people get mad at the game, I say, don't get mad at the game. Learn the game, because for you to be in the game, you're in the game anyway. You're in the game anyway. So for you not to learn the rules of the game, you're going to keep getting punished. Double dribble. You're traveling. Blocking foul, and that's what keeps happening to us, because we don't want to, because we haven't embraced our citizenship. We don't think we need to learn the rules. You better learn capitalism, because that's the system we're in. When I was in Europe, it was socialism, right? When I was in Europe, it was socialism.
Correct.
You had to learn the game. So when I lived there, I paid 50% in taxes. That was the game. Now either you can complain about it or learn the game. Now, there are some different nuances. They paid for health care and things like that, but it was 50% taxes. And I had to pay that.
Yeah, no question.
It's the game.
No
and
question.
So did I see people succeed in that economy? I'm like, well, they figured it out. How are you still? Oh, you just got to make more. So, you got to make more money. So that was the name of the game.
Well, listen, my brother, we're glad that you came here to educate us on the name of the game. And I'm so glad, and we feel blessed of your energy, your love, your wisdom, that you're willing to share with others to help them take that next step. The question I have for you is, how can a Black executive perspective help Dr. Will?
If you guys just keep showing up, doing what you're doing, making this platform available for other thought leaders, for other leaders, and keep the conversation going. I say this all the time. I don't believe that there's a wealth gap. I believe that there's an information gap. And if we can get the information, we can close the gap. And you two brothers are providing information on a weekly basis that I pray is closing the gap for so many. I've had an opportunity to listen to many of your shows, and I walk away the better for it every single time. So that's how you can bless me, help me. Just keep showing up, give me a place to go to learn about these other amazing. I get amazed every day that there's somebody that I didn't know about yesterday that's doing something amazing in this world. And that excites me. And every time I come to your platform, I meet someone, I learn about someone, and I say, man, I didn't know that sister was doing that. I didn't know that brother was doing that. I thought I was the only one out here doing it. And that's many times how we feel, right? Until we come to a platform like this. So I appreciate you, brothers.
Well, thank you, my man. And look, let's be fair, though. We're going to have you come back. As long as you okay dropping knowledge.
Man, I look forward to it, man. Anytime, man, y'all need me, I look forward to it.
Okay. Dr. Will Morland, as you can see, one of the most highly educated, passionate, motivational person that you will ever find. And he blessed us today with a great word on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. So I think it's now time for
Tony's Tidbit.
And so the tidbit today: the future is shaped by the bold, those who push progress forward, build bridges, and won't settle for comfort. Inclusion begins there, not by forcing people to conform, but by creating space where authenticity is welcomed, not diminished. And you heard a lot of that from our brother today, Dr. Will Moreland.
We definitely want to remind you at this time to tune in to our own resident doctor, Dr. Nasinga Burton, on our weekly segment, Need to Know with Nasinga. In this segment, a Black Executive Perspective podcast highlights Dr. Burton's insights and crucial, timely topics that shape our world and community that we live in. Make sure you tune in and check her out. It's deep and you don't want to miss it.
And you definitely don't want to miss her. And you don't want to miss the next episode of Pull Up, Speak Up, where our roundtable dives into the provocative topics that's happening on a daily basis, sharp perspectives, real talk, a call to action. Tune in to join the revolution that is Pull Up, Speak Up here on the Black Executive Perspective podcast.
We also want to make sure that you understand that we do this to incorporate our call to action, which is LESS. Our goal is to eliminate all forms of discrimination, and to achieve this, we're asking everyone to embrace less. The L stands for learn, to educate yourself on racial and cultural nuances, and as Dr. Will said, learn the rules of the game.
Absolutely. And then after you learn, you have the letter E for empathy. Now, since you've learned, now you can put yourself in your friends' and colleagues' shoes, because now you know what they've been going through.
And then the first S is for share. Share your insight and enlighten others, whether it be your child or your community. You have a responsibility to make sure you don't hide it, you divide it.
Absolutely. And the final S is stop. We want to stop discrimination as it walks in our path, right? So if Auntie Jenny or Uncle Joe say something inappropriate at the Sunday dinner table, you say, Auntie Jenny, Uncle Joe, we don't believe that, we don't say that, and you stop it right there. So if everyone can incorporate less, LESS, we'll build a more fair, more understanding world, and we all will see the change that we want to see, because less will become more.
I want to remind you to tune in to all of our platforms. Check us out live when we go live. Make sure that you reach out to us. Check out the website. Sign up for the newsletter. Make sure that you review and subscribe and provide us things that you might want to hear about that we can put on the platform for you. Tony, where can they find us?
My friend, you can find the Black Executive Perspective podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us on our socials of LinkedIn, X, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at the Black Exec. For our fabulous guests, the #1 leadership trainer in the world, Dr. Will Moreland. For my boy down in Dallas, the co-host with the most, Chris P. Reed, I'm Tony Tidbit. We talked about it. We learned about it. We laughed about it. We're still going to strive about it, and we're definitely going to thrive about it. We love you, and guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.